Welcome to the Bleep Midlife Bulimia podcast with guest John Davis. Hi everyone, I'm Lori Ann. I am the guest of Bleep Midlife Bulimia. Today I have John Davis and he's the corporate action hero, but we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. Thanks so much for being here, John, with me.
I am so excited to be here with you and Lorianne. I've always found you to be a fun. I was on one of your other podcasts, and I found that to be a really fun time. So I was really excited when you asked me to be on this one as well.
I'm so glad that you made it. So give us a little bit of background, and let's just start this conversation.
Sure. Well, for your audience, I am known as the corporate action hero. I'm a keynote speaker. I go out and I awaken people's inner action heroes, doing fun and lively interactive keynotes with bullwhips and nunchucks and things you've never seen a keynote speaker use before. I help them break past their limiting beliefs and move forward to achieve more even quicker than they thought they could. And so that's what I do now. That all stems from the fact that I was a professional stuntman and fight director for stage and film, and mostly stage, but a lot of film as well. But I went on to do a lot of amazing things because of the fact that I had a traumatic injury at 22, where my back split in two, and I found myself paralyzed, and I had to work my way back using the power of my mind and leveraging my present moment.
That's amazing. Those stories are always great to hear when somebody's been able to do that instead of just say, this isn't going to happen for me. So thanks for that. So we were chatting just earlier. You were saying, I mean, I was explaining to my listeners, John is on here for a different, some of my guests have not been bulimic, obviously, but some of them have understanding to the psychology of it. So did you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I have a very unique really unique perspective on it. Number one, I'm a comedian, so my shows, my stunt work, and all that stuff. I also did a comedy sword fighting show and was a comedian for many years. So I look at the world from a funny point of view. So I look at the world kind of askew if you really think about it. But what I find really interesting, in my studies of coming back from that back injury, one of the things that I had to do was I had to find out how my brain worked, and I started really studying neurolinguistics, hypnosis, psychology, and I kind of married that with my spirituality as well, and I started finding correlations that let me really achieve more. The things that I was able to set down my past experiences, because most of our eating disorders or even our self-limiting beliefs are based in these past subconscious beliefs that we have to somehow break the cycle of these past subconscious beliefs. And so I had to break the subconscious beliefs. I also had to break the beliefs that people were trying to give me, like doctors who said, you'll never do this or you'll never do that. And so I had to not take on somebody else's judgments and beliefs about what I could accomplish. And so in studying, and I started finding all kinds of interesting. Before I jump into the psychology aspect of it, I kind of want to jump into my spiritual theory, if you don't mind. You see, Buddha says the secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear. Okay, and Krishna said we are the culmination of our thought. And the interesting thing is, if Buddha was right about that eradication of fear thing, that's really interesting. The Apostle John said that God is love. And if God is love and Buddha says the secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear, I truly believe that enlightenment is seeing and experiencing God or source, whatever you want to call it. And so I truly believe that we are here to experience our separation from that source through our fears and through our control of our fears. And so when I look at the issues that I've dealt with. Now, I was a binge eater. I was someone who, the pizza would come and I would eat it, all of it, right. And so I had that aspect too, and that came from the fact that I was medicating my self-belief from my father, who was an alcoholic abuser, right? He had 7 kids, and of the 7, I was the one that he hated. And he took it all out on me my entire life, which led me to becoming a huge introverted person. So much so that when I got into high school, I just wanted to be loved and accepted by everybody. And nobody would, because I was a very overweight young boy with acne. and so that having that desire to be loved, right? Now, I said God is love, and Buddha says the secret to enlightenment is eradication of fear. So if we're here and we all want to be loved, and everybody on earth wants to be loved in some form, right? If we're here and we all want to be loved, then, and we have control of fear, which if you think about it from a scientific level, you can't experience love without knowing the opposite. You've got to know what fear is to feel what love is. The problem is that people get stuck on a psychological level on their fears. And sometimes we say, we will be loved if we are thin. We will be loved if we are, a plumber. In my case, my father wanted me to follow in his footsteps to be a plumber, right? And so he thought that my career was heading to a place of no money. So he thought he was going, and I ended up making much more money than he ever did. But that's another story. But the thing is, our fear of not being loved is the key element. But those are all subconscious beliefs. Those are all things that are behind us. We are putting judgment outside of ourselves and putting it on either things that have happened to us in our past, our abuses and our issues of our past, or on judgments that other people are giving us now in the present. And what's happening is we're giving away our power to others. And sometimes that other is your subconscious belief, and sometimes that other is other people. And so you have to realize that just like when the airplane's going down, and the oxygen masks fall, you have to put yours on first before you can help somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. You've got to give to yourself and love to yourself, because if you want to love yourself first, then you are giving yourself that source, that God, that thing that we all want to experience. Now, how do you do that? That's the hardest part of it all. It's the part that I struggled with hugely. And the way you do that really is to do what the Bible says, which is be born again. So what that means is not what some of the evangelicals are all will say. What, in my opinion, what that is, and I say it's my opinion, spirituality, as I said to you before this podcast, is a personal journey. And so we all have to come to our own beliefs and not judge others for theirs. But for me, when Jesus said be born again, he's saying set down that past, set down that subconscious belief, set down those things that limit you in the here and now, and just start doing small things here, because it's the only I am moment you have. It's the only I am moment you have. And do you remember what Moses said God's name was after he talked to the burning bush?
Awe, which is
Awe. You know what that translates to? It translates to I am. Mm-hmm. So this is your I am moment. This is your God moment. This is the moment where you get to go, I am, and do something. And don't think you have to do the giant, big, successful, weight loss number or any of that. Don't think about that. Think about right here. I'm just not going to do that extra thing, or I'm not going to, go into the restroom and do that thing right now. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm making this moment really successful. And the next moment, what happens is your subconscious belief just collected one really positive moment because you didn't do it, right? And then you do another one, and now you got two behind you. Now your subconscious belief is being altered, and you're changing your whole experience about that love, because you are creating that love for yourself. I'm a meditator. I've been meditating for over 30 years. I meditate twice a day for 40 minutes. And I get up in the morning, and before I even start my day, I meditate. Before I go to bed at night, I meditate. And what's interesting is when I first started meditating, I struggled with it. People have a hard time meditating anyway. Nobody I've ever talked to thinks they can. And the reason is it kind of goes like this. They go, all right, I'm going to meditate now. And they close their eyes and they start to, either listen to a mantra or something like that. And then it gets a little quiet for a little while. And then suddenly a thought pops in that says, did you pay your bills?
Yes.
Right. And you go, oh, stop that. And you clear and you stop and you push it aside and you go back to doing it again. And then you're like, oh, did I turn the stove off? Oh, stop it. And after a while, they say, I can't do this. Right. The secret to meditation, and it's the coolest thing ever, the secret to meditation are the people who just keep doing it until the quiet times in between last longer. That's all that really happens. Right. So for me, because in the beginning, I needed those mantras and those things to focus on, I had to sit into this place of using that as a tool. And that's great. It works very well. After you do it a while and you get to that place of bliss and that love for self inside of yourself, what happens is you come to a place where instead of using a mantra or using something, you sit down and you just feel it and you just bring it into your experience. And then you start to realize that you can walk through your day and you can bring that feeling into your experience. And it's interesting to do because when you're walking through a store or something like that, and you bring that feeling into your experience, people around you start to smile at you. They have no idea they're doing it. They have no idea because you're creating that love. But the thing is on a psychological level, we were talking before the podcast about the chemicals that are shot up when you do certain things. But all of those chemicals do one thing. They give you a feeling. Mm-hmm. And addiction to me is medicating our fear to feel something like love. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. I've never heard it that way before, but you're absolutely right.
I think I'm the only one who says it. It's my personal theory, actually. I've been working this theory for a couple of years now, but I haven't necessarily broadcast it to the world like we're doing right now. But for me, but that we're medicating our fear to get. And what's really interesting? Did we talk before about the primal response of fear?
I don't believe so. No.
No. Okay, so. If you ever watch National Geographic shows on TV,
yeah,
you there's always the episode with the gazelle that's out there eating the grass in the field. It's going crunch, 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 and suddenly the predator cat hits the field. Right. And the first thing the gazelle does is this: it goes and gasps for air. When you're in a fear state, you have this place of not feeling like you can breathe. Yeah. Right. Well, it's not because you can't breathe. It's not because your body doesn't have air. It's because your body is storing air because it's a primal response. So your body's storing air. And the reason why your body's storing air is so your body can run further and faster. Because it's a little primal response from our caveman days, right? Actors on Broadway are trained that if they forget their lines on stage, they're trained to exhale and relax all their muscles. And guess what? All their lines rush back into their head. Because they shut off that primal response. Now check this out. Say I have an addiction to smoking. Okay. I grab my cigarette, I light it up, and I have a big exhale and I allow myself to relax. Now let's say I'm an alcoholic. Oh, it feels so good. And we exhale and we allow ourselves to relax. Say I have a pizza addiction, like, somebody, right? I get my slice of pizza. Oh God, it's so good. Right.
Yeah, that first bite and then the second, the third, the fourth, and it keeps
right. But it's that allowing yourself to exhale. It's giving you the tool right there. It's like I gave this pizza permission to let me breathe. Mm-hmm. I gave this cigarette the permission to let me exhale and relax. Right. So by giving over the power to either a behavior or a substance, you're creating these spikes that make you feel like you're safe, like you're secure, and like you're loved. And so when I look at conditions like bulimia, and I feel for anybody who goes through the process, because that is a hard place to be. When my father was a serious mental abuser, and I did not feel loved in any way, shape, or form from my childhood, and it carried through until I found acting. And acting was it was a very interesting process for me, because by becoming a character who wasn't me, I could do anything. But until I became me fully, I never felt truly loved. And so I had to expand out of my comfort zone so that I could find my comfort zone. Does that make sense?
It does. And when you're just quickly about the bulimia, in a sense, that is what we're doing, because, we're hiding behind something that other people see us the way we think they want to see us, rather than who we truly are. And
Right.
we're so afraid to show any sort of like that side of us. And I'm not just talking physically, I'm also talking about emotionally. Yeah, so I get that.
Well, and I think the physical aspects of bulimia are based upon the emotional aspects. I mean, I don't think people are consciously wanting to do that. I think that they are trying to be loved. They're trying to say, well, they will love me if I'm thin.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that aspect, I think the first thing that anybody who's going through this process needs to do is exhale. Literally take a moment and go, oh, I'm okay. I am loved. And that moment right there can be huge for people, can be literally huge for people. When I do my, when I do my corporate action hero speech, I end my speech by dragging the most timid person I can find on stage in front of thousands of people. And that person is timid for a reason, right? They're timid because they're afraid of what those people in that room are going to think of them. Mm-hmm. Right. And the first thing I do when they walk on stage is I look at them, I give them a big smile. Right. And I try to emit that feeling that I talk about. And I say, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for helping me. And then I turn to the audience and I say, isn't she a rock star for coming? And the audience gives her all this massive positive reinforcement, which makes her feel like a rock star, right? So I've deleted that fear that they're not going to love her, because we started with the love, right? So then as we go through the process, I'm managing her fear through the whole process. One of the things we do is in under 5 minutes, that person will learn how to crack a bullwhip and take targets out of my hand, right? And the way that's done is I'm literally managing her fear moments. I'm looking at her moments of fear and her moments of acceptance, right? So we never talk about cracking whips. We always talk about just fishing. We're going to go cast a fishing rod. So I make jokes about casting fishing rods, and I have part of the audience make fish faces, like that. Right? And then I say to her, now you need to choose which fish you hate the most, and then cast your fishing rod, right? and she laughs and the whole bit. And so I get her laughing. She casts her fishing rod and the whip cracks. And then I say to her, did you see that? Did you hear it crack? So I'm giving her the positive reinforcement for the present moment action and the results she just got. When you're going through any emotional struggle in your life, you've got to set down that past experience, start creating positive present moments, and then give yourself credit. Give yourself credit, not anybody else, not anybody else's expectations. You have to give yourself credit. And then once you get yourself credit, now here's the next thing I do to her, which is every time you're trying to overcome something in your life, there's always going to be something that comes up that seems like either a roadblock or a stumbling block, mm-hmm. right? It happens all the time, And the interesting thing is when those things pop up, you have to stay flexible. You have to go, okay, it happened. And I talked about making successful present moments. The reality of it is that you don't have to make them all perfect. You have to give yourself permission to be fallible and realize that your job is to make most of them successful, right? So something's going to happen. Don't beat yourself up. I mean, that's why I went bald, is because I kept smacking the top of my head, knocking the hair off of it, right? The thing is that it's just a moment. And your job is to make your moments predominantly positive. And so what I do to her on the stage is after she's cracked it, I pull out a target and I hold it in my hand in front of her. Instantly, she's in fear. And so I have to address that fear again. And I say to her, I look her right in the eye and I say, I promise you're not going to hurt me. You know, sometimes when you're guiding someone through a stressful situation, you got to lie to them. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You know, if you're guiding someone through the process, you have to realize it's their experience and not your own.
Yeah.
You have to meet them where they are, not where you expect them to be. It's called leading, not dragging, right? And but if you're doing it for yourself, you have to be the one who, in those moments of adversity, those things that pop up, you have to be the one who says flat out, no, that was just not that moment that wasn't successful was not what I'm doing, because I am going for this.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to give yourself that healthy experience. So rather than going down this path for somebody else, because in the reality of it is, if you're trying to get someone else to approve, you're living their life and not your own.
Absolutely.
You need to get into your life and your experience and your love. So I hope I'm doing okay. I'm talking a lot.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, I just wanted to, you know, it was very shortly interject, but my daughter, she's going through engineering, and you know, she did psychology and all that. Now she's taking engineering because she's really big on this plastic stuff. She's going to come up with something really good. She'll be on our show later. But the interesting thing is, she said, she goes, Mom, my marks are not that great this year, but I mean, with COVID, it's been really tough, you know, particularly in engineering because of, you know, your labs and stuff. And she says, but I'm being kind to myself.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of going,
oh, you gotta love yourself first.
Academics, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm passing, and I'm going to be kind to myself right now. And I thought, you're saying it beautifully.
Right. Right. Because that is the key. That is the key. You have to realize you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And here's something else. If you truly want to be loved and experience a loving relationship with somebody, then you have to realize that what you're actually looking for is not just love. You're looking for unconditional love. And you can't get unconditional love if you're not expressing yourself fully. You know, if you want someone to love you, then you have to be you fully, not what they expect you to be. And so you have to drop into this place of I can't tell you how many people will come to me to help them, you know, find relationships, because I do a lot of coaching in my life. And they come to me and they say, well, I want to find a good relationship. I said, so what are you doing to do that? And they go, well, you know, I'm going out to the bars and I'm meeting people. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Were you a bar goer before you started looking? And half of them say no. I go, really? So you're going to a place to find people who like to socialize and drink. So, and you're not a person who likes to socialize and drink. What do you like to do? And they'll say stuff like, well, like, you know, I'm an avid bike rider, or I paint, or they give me some other thing. I say, well, why don't you just do the things that you love to do and just talk to people that are doing the same things that you like to do, and don't have any expectation. Just talk to people. And I'll bet you have a relationship really quickly, because you're going to meet somebody who's in like mind, who likes you for you, and being you fully, and they can love you without a condition expecting you to change. Mm-hmm. Now, to be transparent to your audience, they do call me Triple X because I have 3 ex-wives.
I love it.
right. But what I learned from those 3 ex-wives was that I was giving myself up for their expectations. Mm-hmm. And until I became me, until I became fully who I am, you know, then I started having great relationships, and people started coming into my life who were so much more in alignment with me and what I like to do. And my life got so much calmer. And, you know, I'm still a very large man. I'm a 6'1", 275-pound man right now. And, you know, that's not small, right? But I don't care. I love me for me. And if they don't love me for me, okay, you don't have to. I'm not asking to feel my love from you. I'm asking to just accept me for me. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not really the type of person that I am interested in being involved with, because I accept you for you.
Yeah. And that's,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, you know, it's funny because I go in the mirror and I go, I love you, Lori. And I've got to the point where I just enjoy my company so much. And if I want to do something, I do it, whatever. But there wasn't always that point. And there was a time where I wanted everybody to really like me. Now I'm going, you know, you either like me or you don't. If you like me, you're in my circle. And if you don't, you don't have to, and don't try and force yourself into my circle, because I'm going to feel it if you don't like me and you're just pretending to, because there's a very big intuitive impact on that.
Right.
And I've been so much happier, saying to myself, like, I don't really need that person. That person was in my life for 10 years and I realized that that was not a positive. Well, then I have the right to say, thank you for the experience and the time with you, but you don't fit my circle anymore. I want the positive. I want the good and the people who like me. Yeah.
Well, it's I'm so glad you said it that way, because people who tell me all the time that, they were the love of my life. And I'm like, no, they weren't. They were the love of that part of your life.
Yes.
But you are writing the book of your life, and you get to choose whether it's a comedy or a tragedy. Right. You get to choose if there's another chapter. You get to choose when the book ends. You get to choose. And the question is, what are you writing next? And are you excited about the next chapter? Or because if you're focused on editing the past chapters, then you're not writing the book forward. And you got to write the book forward, because life is about motion. Life, if you think about it, if you just on a environmental level, water in nature running down a hill is full of oxygen and full of life because it's in motion.
Yeah.
That's why they put bubblers in fish ponds, to put oxygen into the water, to make it lively, to keep the motion going. Take that same water and drop it into a puddle, and it becomes poisonous and stagnant, and bugs lay their eggs in it. Life is about motion. So if you're sitting in this moment, constantly looking backward, I'll give you one of my favorite quotes, and I love this quote. Robin Williams was asked if he would ever do a Mork and Mindy reunion. And his response was this, and I think it's one of the most brilliant responses I've ever heard. He says, "You don't look backwards if you want to go forwards, or you'll just run into a tree." Right. It's not that crazy wild Robin Williams. It's a very profound Robin Williams at that point. He's saying, if you want to go forward, you can't be focused backwards, or you're just going to run into trouble, right? Now, if you really think about this, I think at some point I may have mentioned the subconscious mind, but the subconscious mind has two jobs, and one of them is collecting your present moment memories and giving you subconscious belief. The other one is to show you what you're focused on. And it's interesting, because when you focus on something, it will pop in your head. I am an avid Jeep fan. I love Jeeps.
I do too.
Oh, you're a Jeep person, really?
Oh my gosh, I am.
Oh my God, you should see my Jeep. I'll have to show you. I have it like all jacked up, and tires and winches, and I go to the beach and do the sand dunes, and it's awesome. Anyway, so I'm a big Jeep fan. So I see Jeeps like crazy when I go down the road. They pop out at me, right? Because my conscious mind loves Jeeps. My subconscious mind shows me Jeeps.
Yeah.
If your conscious mind is focused on negative world, your subconscious mind will show you a negative world.
True.
So you have to make sure that your moment, your I am moment, your only moment you have, it's your job to make it a good one, right? And no one can judge you for it. There's my promise to you. You are not judged by how you do your moment, right? Because the reality of it is, there's only one person who can do your moment, and it's you. And if someone is judging you, it doesn't matter anyway, because what they say doesn't matter. And if they matter, what they say, it will be positive towards you, right? If they truly matter. So stay in this moment, stack present moment positively. Here's one thing I want to say. Everything I'm saying sounds so simplified, and I'm not trying to marginalize the experience that any of your listeners are going through. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to do here is show a perspective. And let me tell you what it did for me. Okay, this process that I'm talking about. I was told, and I had serious belief, that I was never going to walk again. And I could take on their beliefs, and I could want their approval, and get that. If I did not walk, I would have the doctor's approval, because that's what the doctor was saying, right? I couldn't take on his beliefs. I couldn't take on his judgments or his expectations of me. I can only set and reach my own expectations. And so I had to say, today, I'm going to flex the upper back muscles. And that's what I'm going to do today. And today, this present moment, I'm doing the upper back muscles. The next day, I went a little further down the back, right? So I just started doing it. And then the day that I flexed my hip muscles, it blew the doctor away because that was below the injury.
Wow.
Right. And at day 30, I was sitting up on the side of the bed. And at 6 months, I was walking around. At a year, I was back to being a normal individual rather than my buff action hero self. Back then I had Fabio hair and it was lovely. But at a year and 6 months, I stood on top of a 3-story tower and jumped off into a fall pad. And it was all about making successful present moments, because a lot of times you sit in your present moment, you look at your future and you think you have to get to it. It's a struggle to get to it. Well, don't focus on struggle, focus on making successful moments. That thing is coming to you depending what you do here. You don't have to get to it. Because when you experience it, it's going to surround your present moment and you're going to experience it right here, right now. So you're not struggling to get somewhere. It's coming to you, depending on what you do here.
Depending on what you do here. And I totally agree with that. I had a quick conversation with one of my sisters yesterday, and she says, I've got 3 things to do and I'm not getting to them. I said, okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to write the 3 down. You are going to find the top one that you need to do right now to get it off. And then once that's going, then you go to the next one. And I said, I'll make you accountable for it because I'm going to call you tomorrow. There's one that's really simple. All you have to do is put a stamp and mail it. And she goes, but why can't I? I said, because you're telling yourself, why can't I?
Right.
Instead of saying, I can do this.
Right.
And the other thing quickly.
Right. Well, sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing too, you were
talking I just wanted to real quick.
Go ahead. This is what it's about.
I'm just going to interject this real quick. So Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you are right.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No worries, but it just tagged on to the next thing that she was saying is that, you're so right. And she watched all of these negative movies all the time. And then when we get on the phone, all it was negative. And I said, I don't want to hear it because I have the choice of what I hear or not. And sometimes that would offend her, but this is where I'm at. I don't want to hear it. The other day, she says, you know what, you're so right. She says, I started watching comedies because it's a heck of a lot better for my mindset. And I'm going, there you go. I didn't force her to. I just said, I don't watch it. I watch comedies. That's why I talk to fun people like you.
Right. Well, and like even this we're both on Podmatch. Okay. Yeah. And for me, Podmatch is a great site. And the thing is, how am I successful on Podmatch? The way I'm successful on my Podmatch is every day I do something on Podmatch. Right. I put myself out there on Podmatch, and and as I just said before we came on the air, that in January, end of January is when I started Podmatch, and this is my 54th guest appearance on a podcast, and it's literally just because I feel good about doing it. It makes me feel good to look over at that list and see me at number one. Right.
And you're going to be doing number 2 on our other show coming up May 5th. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Okay. And it's just so interesting to me that you were talking about multitasking pretty much. And when I used to do real estate investing, and I used to buy and flip houses, and and I did that as a sideline while I was doing all my other stuff, because I was one of those guys who really wanted all the money, right? And one of the best pieces of advice one of the real estate investors that I knew said was, never multitask. And I said, he says, I want you to look at this. He says, if you have 3 houses you're trying to get done, it's going to take you the same length of time that it would for you to get the last house finished. But if you were to take this house, the first house, and finish it and sell it, you'd have the money when you're doing the second house. And so you'd be getting paid all the way along. But in the multitasking model, you don't get paid for any of them until the end.
Yeah.
But once you finish a task, you get reward, you get payment. And so, finish something. The reward I love to give myself, I have a checklist. I have a whiteboard right over here. And my reward is I erase it.
Yes.
Right? I go, boom, gone, woo, and I get really excited about it, right? Give yourself reward, give yourself a break. I have known so many people in my life who are so loving and so caring, and yet they say the worst things about themselves.
I know, eh?
It's like, I say, I wouldn't let anybody else talk about you that way. Why would I should let you talk about you that way?
Yeah.
And you should give yourself that same thing. Why would I let myself talk about myself that way? And then think about, why am I talking to myself that way? And then realize that is because in the past you had some experience that said you're not worthy, or you are or not loved, or you've had that experience in your past. That's the only reason you beat yourself up.
Yeah.
It's because somewhere in your subconscious belief it has been given to you. So set it down.
I have to give you that fun story. My mother used to call me clumsy, because it's not a lie. I used to drop a glass of whatever every day. At one point, it got to 7 dishes. I cleared the table. That was not a good job for me. And of course, the thing is, the more she got upset with me, and no disrespect to mom, that was the way that we were brought up. You do something, oh, you're clumsy. You didn't, and it was just the way it was. But the more I felt clumsy, the clumsier I became. It's not a lie.
Right.
But to this day, if I drop something, I'm getting so much better. I was calling myself, oh, Lorianne, to myself, out loud. Oh, that was clumsy. And then I go, no, it wasn't. It's like, don't cry over spilled milk. We all do it.
Right. I can't tell you how many, with COVID, we're doing a lot of ordering food in. Food's coming to the house now, right? So, and I can't tell you how many times during COVID that the orders have come messed up.
Yeah.
Right. And I watch the person delivering say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm always shocked when I see them be shocked when I say, no, things happen.
Yeah.
And they go, because they expect me to be mad, right? Because that's what people are giving them all the time.
Yeah.
People are allowed to be fallible, and you have to let not only them be fallible, but yourself be fallible. Yeah. When you break a glass, okay, you broke a glass, buy another one. Yeah. Right? Clean it up. Make sure you don't step on it later. Right? But as I said, Buddha said, what you think you become.
Yeah.
So if you think you're clumsy,
you do it.
You're going to be clumsy, right? If I think I'm a stuntman, here's another thing though, let me get on my little rant here about affirmations. Can I do that for a second?
Absolutely. I don't mind going a little overtime with you. It's hard not to.
Okay. So affirmations. When I think of an affirmation, this is the way it's been described to me. So, John, you're 100 pounds overweight and you want to lose weight. Here's your affirmation. I am a thin man. But I can look down and still not see my damn shoes. Right? It is hard for me to believe that. So I don't believe affirmations are actually viable. I believe in declarations. And so if I'm going to declare it, I can't declare I am thin and not look down and see it. I have to declare that I am eating better. I have to declare that I am going to take a walk today. I have to declare that I am building a healthier body. And what happens is those small moments that I am moments that I'm creating. Now, let me just say it. Declaring, there's a famous Shakespeare quote from Claudius in Hamlet. He says, words without thoughts never to heaven go. Yeah. Right? So you can say it and you can think it, but if you don't act upon it, you're just daydreaming. That's all, thoughts and beliefs without actions are just daydreams. Thought, word, and deed are your present moment thing you can do. So take that walk, eat the better food, do the things you need to do, but live this present moment fully.
I'm just speaking to affirmations before we go. I have to say that because when you're saying that, I see it all over Facebook all the time. Do the affirmation, I am rich, I am wealthy, I'm really healthy. And then I look at my bank account, it's just like you with the weight thing. It's like I'm going, but I can do the declaration. This is what I want to reach within, that is, it's going to be something I can achieve.
Right.
And
right.
yeah, the declaration. So but again, you have to work towards that declaration. You can't just sit there.
Right.
Yes, I have $1 million in my bank account. No, I don't.
No, right. I am receiving $1 million. Now I tell you what, I have said I am receiving, when I was early in my speaking career, and I would go out and I'd walk and I would, my mantra was, as I walked, was, I am receiving $20,000 a month. I am receiving $20,000 a month. And now that's a different thing.
Yes, it is.
And what happened was, it was 3 months later, I broke $20,000 a month.
Beautiful.
Right. And it literally was me taking action, that walk, that focus. And then every day I'd come back from that walk and focus, and I would do some small thing towards that thing. I would promote myself as a speaker. I would bid on some speaking gig. And next thing you know, it was growing exponentially. But it's once again, that motion. Now here's the tough part. The subconscious mind tricks us. And the way you can break the subconscious mind is assess what you are saying about your present moment.
Yes.
And here's some words I want you to take out of your vocabulary. Ready? Very simple words. Wanting, needing, hoping, and trying. If you take them out of your vocabulary, because none of them feel good, none of them are present moment active, and all of them say, I don't have it now. Yeah. Right? Or I'm not creating it now. So you need to say, I am creating, I am enjoying, I am, and look at the present moment things that you can say. I am enjoying losing weight. I am enjoying the process of eating healthy and having a full, lifestyle that I've wanted to live. That's very different. I am receiving the love in my life that I want. Yeah. I am surrounding myself with the love that is abundant, and and the money that's abundant too, if that's what your trick is too.
Love it. That's great. And yes, and I said that in another one of my podcasts. And one thing that's wonderful is think about the wonderful feeling being recovered from bulimia for 10 years. But it was along that journey thinking about that, I'm receiving an amazing amount of good feelings because I'm moving forward to the type of life I want to be able to sit down and, I could have pizza with you. I'll only have my one piece most likely because I get full really fast now. But
right.
But I could share that moment, whereas before you put a pizza in front of me and I'd freak out. When I was believing it's a scary thing. Don't
Right. And you said it perfectly. It was a scary thing. So your fear reared up.
Yeah.
And so you have to exhale at that moment. And it all gets better. And I tell smokers all the time, don't have a smoke break, have a breathing break.
Yeah.
Just go out and breathe.
Just go out and go wherever you go to have your cigarette instead of having it, just breathe it instead.
Well, actually, don't go where you had your cigarette. Go somewhere else, because the space will be a trigger, right? Right. For me, I say go out in nature, walk through the woods.
Yeah.
Experience. And I find when you go out in nature and you're walking through the woods and you get yourself to that calm space, amazing things happen. I was walking through nature, and I found this creek. And had a log that had fallen over the creek like a natural bridge. And I walked out in that bridge, and I was standing on the bridge, and I was talking about that bliss state before. On top of that bridge, I just stood for a second and just allowed myself to experience that bliss state. And I looked to my left, and 10 feet away from me on the bank was an 8-point buck staring at me.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't freaked out, wasn't running. He was right there, just relaxed with me. And then when, of course, I got excited that he was there, I was like, oh, cool, and he took off running. But but for that moment, he was calm and relaxed, and we were just looking at each other, So it's a matter of your outer experience is all about how calm you are on the inside.
Thanks again, John, for being here. And just let our audience know where they can find you if you can do that for me, because I know.
Easiest way to find me is the corporateactionhero.com. And make sure your audience gets that free workbook on the 5 F's. It's on my Podmatch profile there. That 5 F's is how to hack that fight or flight response. And it's good for your personal achievements, your professional achievements, and how to help others through their own as well. So it's a free gift. And I say free, I mean free. I don't get anything for it, including email addresses. It's a gift. It's for me giving you value, me not taking something from you.
Beautiful. Thanks again. Really appreciate your time. And we
will. Oh, it was great.
People, listeners out there, it's going to be posted on my Facebook. May 5th, we're having a duo between John Davis, who is number 1, and then we've got Tyler Foley, who is number 2. And we're having fun because they're both stunt people, so it's be fun. We'll have that up there.
It will be fun.
All right, look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
I see ya. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.